Hello and welcome back to the Villa View. Today we're doing our Ultimate Premier League 11s, me and Dan Bardell. So welcome Dan, welcome back. Okay Dan, so I'm starting off with my goalkeeper and I've gone with number 1, Brad Friedel.
Good keeper. He came into my thoughts, he was probably I think he was third choice keeper for me.
It's not just the Villa that during the Premier League he's been a fantastic goalkeeper. He's been there for 15 years and we struggled to find a goalkeeper that was solid for some time until Brad Friedel came in. He was miles ahead of Brad Guzan at the time, Thomas Sorensen, David James in the past as well. And he joined the team at a point where we started to grow a lot, so I felt that he was really important and a pivotal signing for us at the time. So that's my decision behind him.
So I've gone with Mark
Bosnich.
Yeah.
I did consider him, but I didn't want too many players where I hadn't watched him too much. So I think he would have been in there, in fairness, if it wasn't for the fact that I didn't see him play ever.
I mean, if you thought Brad Guzan's kicking was bad, Bosnich's kicking was just as bad, to be fair. But on the other side of it, a bit like Guzan, he made some unbelievable saves and he had a presence and he gave the defence a lot of confidence. But he was probably one of my first heroes at Villa because he did. As when I was very young, he obviously had those penalty saves against Tranmere, and he was just an unbelievable goalkeeper. So he's probably the best keeper I've seen play for Villa. So right back, he wasn't really a right back, but he did play there quite a lot for Villa in his last season, and I really felt that I needed to shoehorn him into the side, so I picked Olof Mellberg.
Ooh, Olof Mellberg's a really good shout, but I'd always have him down as a centre half, and that's why I've gone with Mark Delaney.
Delaney was good, so he'd have been my second pick probably. I just went for Mellberg just because he's got a good stature at Villa over the last 10-15 years. He's probably been in the top 5 Villa players as a favourite of the crowd, and the gesture when he left, when he gave all the fans at that last game a shirt. I've got one of those shirts and I treasure it. But he was just a very, very good defender, and he was a very loyal, good club man. You could tell he loved Villa. He gave everything for Villa, and obviously he hated Blues as well, which is always a bonus. And he was a good defender. He definitely wasn't out and out right back by any stretch of the imagination, but I couldn't get him in my team any other way, so that's why I had to put him in at right back.
Yeah, Mark Delaney for me, 100% nailed on. I remember watching him play. He was one of the first players I actually grew up watching, and I always just admired his work rate. The fact he made 158 appearances since his debut in 1999 until he retired in 2007, considering the injuries he had in that time length as well, he did a fantastic job for us. And obviously his highlight in that time being making the 2000 FA Cup final. I just think that he was fantastic. And I don't think we've had a right back since that's been as good as him, arguably.
My first centre-half is Paul God McGrath.
It's got to be Mr. Braveheart himself, Olof Mellberg, for me. He was a fantastic player for us, and you've gone over every reason as to why. I don't need to explain myself for Olof Mellberg whatsoever. And you don't for Paul McGrath either, because I can't dispute that whatsoever.
No, I mean, as I've just said, Mellberg was a top centre-half of Villa, one of the best in the recent history. But McGrath, I mean, I was very young when McGrath was playing, so I probably saw him for maybe 3 seasons, maybe 4 at a push when I was growing up. And at that point, you don't really, when you're a youngster, you don't really think about the defensive player. So he was probably someone that I didn't really appreciate a lot of the time. I was all about the attacking players. They were my heroes. But McGrath was just, from what I remember, the crowd just loved him. He was a solid defender. I mean, he never trained in the week. He had a lot of problems, a lot of demons off the pitch as well. But every time he set foot on the pitch, he was just unbelievable. So a lot of fans remember him fondly. I think he's my dad's favourite ever player as well. So I had to take that into consideration when picking my side. And he'll probably go down as the best Villa player ever. I think McGrath, that seems to be the general opinion. So he has to be in the team, definitely.
But he hasn't actually made my team, which is maybe a bit of a shock, but given my age, maybe not.
There'll be a lot of different thoughts, and obviously when you're picking your team, it's quite self-indulgent, isn't it? It's the players that you remember, and if you haven't seen someone play, then you can only really take other people's word for it. But he was just one of the best players ever to put on the Aston Villa shirt, so he had to be in my team. So my second half is another Lionheart defender. I've gone for Martin Larsson.
So have I.
Have you?
Yeah, I have, yeah. Martin Larsson makes my centre-back pairing. he was troubled a lot off the field as well, as we all know, with injuries. But whenever he played, he was just absolutely incredible for us. And I just remember the big game that stood out for me was against Everton away when he was such a spearhead, and also beating Ajax as well in the UEFA Cup as well. That game is the game that I remember so strongly. It's probably one of the highlights of my whole time supporting Aston Villa is watching Martin Larsson score that header at Villa Park. It was just so special.
He was an unbelievable defender, and he was probably someone that Villa had when he was at his best. Obviously, he probably didn't play for his first few seasons because he was injured all the time. But that 1.5 seasons he had uninterrupted before he unfortunately had to retire, he was an absolute monster. Like, I think he got in the PFA team of the season, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
In one of the seasons we finished sixth, and then he got the captaincy the next season. He was what I would say is he was a proper leader. There's not been enough strong characters in the Villa team the season just gone. Larsson was one of those strong characters that wouldn't have taken any rubbish, and he'd have been ideal to have even if he wasn't playing. And he's kind of one of those players that I see coming back to Villa in some capacity one day, and I hope one day we do see him again. I don't know whether he'd end up being a manager, but certainly I could see him on the coaching team.
My left back is Mr. 350 appearances clubman Steve Staunton.
And my left back is a player that played at the same time as him, Alan Wright. But Staunton would have been my second choice. It was very close between Staunton and Wright. Very close.
Yeah, Staunton for me. I think it's just going the fact that he came back to the club as well 3 years after he first left.
He should never have left.
Yeah.
Made a mistake there.
And I feel that he was probably up there with like Baumer in terms of players I remember, even slightly. I know he didn't really do much when he come back. His career was starting to decline. But overall, 350 appearances says a lot. He was very dynamic as well, playing across the back four.
He was a great player. He had, I think he's probably up there with Hitzelsberger as having the best left foot I've seen at Villa. He had a great left foot, and even from playing like left centre back, he was very dangerous coming forward. A lot of it, I think John Gregory alluded to it in his book, where a lot of attacks for Villa and a lot of goals came from him playing out from the back. He had an unbelievable left foot. He had a great pass on him. He was a ball-playing centre-half, really, when he wasn't playing left-back, obviously. But he was very close between him and Alan Wright for me. But I've just gone for Alan Wright just because of the fact he probably wasn't rated by a lot of Villa fans towards the end of his career at Villa, but he was such a good servant. I think he gave 8 or 9 seasons for us. Again, he had a very good left foot, and he scored a couple of absolute worldies. So he's probably the best left back I've seen.
So we're moving forward into the midfield now. Dan, who did you put at right midfield?
Well, I'm going to have to throw a little curveball in here because I couldn't get the players I wanted in if I played a flat 4-4-2. So I've had to play a 4-4-2 narrow diamond, which is probably going to make things a bit difficult. My 3 central midfielders that I've gone with are Stilian Petrov, Ian Taylor, and Gareth Barry.
Right, okay. So I've gone for 4 in midfield.
Okay.
I've gone with James Milner, Ian Taylor, Gareth Barry, and Ashley Young.
Very similar, which will make talking about things a bit easier. Playing at the base of a diamond in front of the back four is Stilian Petrov. I just think he was such a reliable player. Again, a very, very good leader, vocal presence in the dressing room that if he'd have been here this season, just gone, none of this turmoil would have happened. He wouldn't have been allowed to, like Larsson. And the fact that now he's trying to come back and he's got himself back into shape and he's trying to get back in this Villa team, my hat goes off to him because it's just an unbelievable achievement to even have got himself to the level to be talking about it.
I was a bit gutted I couldn't fit him in because I'll be honest, whenever I've named the Premier League team in the past, I have fitted him in there. But I tried to tweak it a bit this time and I'm afraid I just couldn't fit him in. You've mentioned everything I love about him and he has been through everything and he's an absolute hero to any fan out there, any football fan.
One inspiration.
On the wider spectrum, yeah, he's a wider inspiration, so he's deservedly in your team. And if I could put him in my team, I definitely would do. I think James Milner is arguably the best player I have ever seen at Villa Park. Arguably the best player that's ever played in an England shirt in my time as well. I know it's a bold statement, but I've never seen somebody with such a work rate as him, such an energy and such a passion to play for whoever he's playing under.
He was a great player. I mean, you're talking about passion and energy in a Villa shirt. Have you not watched Leandro Bacuna this season?
I was thinking more Gabby Bongo.
Yeah, well, there's a few candidates, isn't there? Milner was very close to being in my team. He was just missed out. I didn't really like the way he left, which has probably tarnished him a bit in my eyes. But I agree with you. At that time, he was playing central midfield, certainly under O'Neill. He was one of the most dynamic and goal-getting midfielders I've seen play for Villa. He was by far our best player that season, and we had some good players. I mean, he certainly got onto my bench, but I couldn't get him into my midfield over the three that I've picked. But I agree with your sentiment, because certainly in recent history, as well as probably in your time, he has been one of the best midfielders we've had.
Carrying on with the rest of that midfield, we've both gone for Ian Taylor.
Yeah.
You don't need to say much. Hard-working, box-to-box maestro for us. Absolutely superb, and so vital in the famous trip to Wembley in 2000.
Obviously, as well, he was one of us, which is always going to make him even more of a hero. And obviously, it's great that he's still involved with the club now, and it's always great to hear what he has to say about Villa, because people automatically listen because of what he's done for the club. I mean, this is going to be an absolute massive shout that I'm going to make now, but I genuinely believe it to be true. He was actually one of the best finishers I've seen play for Villa, because he used to get himself into good positions and get himself one-on-one with the keeper quite a lot, and I don't often remember him missing. He used to tuck away chances quite a lot, and he was reasonably in the air from set pieces and stuff, so we got a lot of headed goals. I think he was very, very underrated in front of goal. He was very much a box-to-box player, and for me, he's my favourite player that I've ever seen play for Villa. He will always be my hero. There's nothing that man could do that would make me not love him. Well, probably some stuff he could do that would make me not love him, but you get the idea that I just love the man. I mean, to think that he, like me, sat and watched Villa play in the whole end, and then went on to just live his and every fan's dream. Like, what must that feel like? Loved the club, kissed the badge every time he scored. He's just my absolute Villa hero.
Do you want to know a fascinating story about me and Ian Taylor?
I do. Yes.
Basically, when I was younger, I went to football, and at half-time we'd have a cup of tea and a Mars bar, or a Fanta and a Mars bar.
Is this at Villa Park?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the one day Ian Taylor was walking through the Trinity Road stand, shaking everybody's hand, and it was like the part of the Red Sea with him. Like, my uncle goes up to him and shakes his hand, says, "I can't believe I'm meeting you, Ian," and blah, blah, blah. My dad does the same. My uncle introduced me to Ian Taylor, and what was I more focused on? I was more focused on my Mars bar than I was Ian Taylor. And looking back at it now, I regret that so much.
You're an absolute disgrace. I've met quite a lot of Villa players.
7 at the time.
You're still a disgrace. Because I've met quite a lot of Villa players in my time, but I've never met Ian Taylor. Oh, bloody iPad. And that's one thing that I wish I could do. I'd just love to just shake his hand. If I just shook his hand and walked off, never said a word to him, I could die happy. I would just love to just meet him and be in his presence, because I know everyone calls McGrath God, but to me, Ian Taylor is my God, because he was just my absolute hero growing up.
So Gareth Barry, we've both gone for him as well.
Yeah.
365 appearances in a Villa shirt, left in 2009 under a cloud of mist, though.
You say that I don't get, because Milner came back and he got a hero's reception after giving 2 full seasons as a permanent Villa player. Yet Gareth Barry gave 10 years or whatever it was and came back and was getting booed, and he made the same move as Milner. Like, I never understood that. I could never bring myself to boo Gareth Barry, because again, I'm going to make what is probably perceived as being a big shout, but I think he's Villa's best Premier League era player.
He was just a free kick specialist, corner kick specialist, and of course a penalty kick specialist. We've not had any of them since.
No,
Bacuna can't take a corner for toffee. Ashley Young can't take a free kick for toffee, and we haven't even got a penalty taker. I just can't remember the last time we had a penalty.
As I say, I think in the Premier League era, when you think of the service he gave, the amount of appearances he made, how reliable he was, he never really had a bad game.
My other midfielder, you've only gone for the 3-man midfielder, I've gone for the 4, and my final one's Ashley Young. My reason behind this is he was second to Cesc Fabregas in the assist charts twice during his time at Villa. 17 assists one season, and every season he was fairly consistent for us until that move to Manchester United, which every Villa fan could sort of understand him going there for.
I think his best time came actually when he wasn't on the wing, and when towards the end of that season, and it was when we beat Blues 5-1, he was playing as a number 10 off Crewe and had Bonlahor just floating around where he wanted to play, and he scored so many goals and he was so dangerous, and I think that was the season he got called up to England for the first time, and he fully deserved that call up because he was great that season. But I kind of feel like he he didn't go off the boil because he was still one of our most dangerous players, but I don't think he ever hit that level again.
So that, as you've probably worked out, I'm going with a 4-4-1-1 formation. Sitting in that central attacking midfield role, I've gone with Paul Merson.
Okay, well that's quite handy because my attack, I'm going to have Paul Merson playing off two strikers.
My reason behind, obviously, Paul Merson is he was the sort of player that every team needed. He was the epitome of everything we needed, energy levels. Despite the negativity over the current crop of players, I think Merson is a true Villa legend.
Unbelievable talent, assists, goals. Again, he wasn't very pacey, but he didn't need to be because he had the football brain. He was just such a good player for us, and he's someone who I don't think's ever really been replaced at Villa, because I don't remember us having a creative midfielder like him since those years.
I don't think he ever gets the recognition he deserves either for what he did. So I've gone with one man at the front, and that one man is Dwight Yorke.
Dwight Yorke, he's in my team as well. He's one of my strikers. The first, well, maybe the second real goal-scoring hero that we had in my time of supporting Villa after Dean Saunders. Yorke was just amazing. I mean, I remember when he went to Man U, I think that was the first time I really experienced the heartbreak of someone big leaving my football team. Like, I was absolutely beside myself. I remember being close to tears when he went to Man U. I mean, John Gregory said that he wanted to shoot him. I just wanted to hug him and beg him to stay. It was a disaster to me at that time. It seemed disastrous to me losing him because he'd just been for 3 seasons the main goal scorer. You knew you could rely on him to hit you 20 goals a season. He was always had a smile on his face. He played the game the right way. He was a great finisher, good pace. He's actually, again, quite a clever player as well. I think he got quite a lot of assists. I think he just thrived off being the main man at Villa.
For me, I didn't actually see much of him, but the year I was born, he scored 20 goals in 41 games. And I thought, I can't ignore that sort of record. And looking back, I wish I'd have seen him in his heyday, because I saw him at his days when he was at like Sunderland and Birmingham City.
No, he's finished.
Yeah, exactly that, yeah.
When you go to St Andrews, you're finished.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And to me, though, 73 goals, 232 games, not many better strikers out there. There is a few strikers that do feature on my bench, and I have a feeling one of them you're going to say. So who is that final striker of yours?
My final striker is, again, another man that's probably carried us on his own for a few seasons, Christian Benteke. I mean, you could see not having him this season, the difference that made. I mean, obviously we lost a few good players in the summer, but I genuinely believe, I'm not saying we would have stayed up, but even if we'd have just had Benteke adding amongst this dross that we've had this season, we'd have been so much closer to staying up just by virtue that he knew where the goal was. I mean, I always think that there's certain players that suit certain clubs, and I just think Benteke's a great player. I just think wherever he ends up now for the rest of his career, all the different clubs he may or may not go to, I just think being at Villa suited him. He played his best football at Villa. He was the main man. The fans loved him. I mean, I even miss singing the bloody song about him.
Yeah.
I mean, again, much like when Yorke left, I mean, obviously I'm a lot older when Benteke left, but I felt beside myself because I knew the difference it would make not having him. And arguably, for 3 seasons, he kept our Premier League life going.
Yeah. Last season, under Tim Sherwood, he was incredible. And it's absolute sacrilege what Liverpool have done to him in his career.
Killed him.
I'm gutted for him, in fairness, but you can understand why he made the move, and I was never going to be bitter because, in fairness, he stayed one more season longer than I think he wanted to.
Maybe 2.
Yeah, exactly that. And every season he was incredible. So I can't dispute having him in your team. So that's both of our 11s done.
In goal, I have Brad Friedel.
In the back 4, I've got Mark Delaney, Olaf Melberg, the legend that is Martin Larsson, and at left back I've got Steve Staunton.
In midfield, I've got 4. I have James Milner, Ian Taylor, Gareth Barry, and Ashley Young. Paul Merson in the cam sort of role, like the centre attacking midfield role. And then leading the line, I've got, of course, Dwight Yorke.
And for my manager, I've got Ron Atkinson.
So if you do think that my lineup is the best lineup out of me and Dan, make sure you're voting on the Twitter polls and on the YouTube polls as well to decide that I have the best squad.
So here's a look at my final starting 11. In goal, we have Mark Bosnich. Across the back 4, it's Olaf Melberg, Paul McGrath, Martin Larsson, and finally Alan Wright. we have a midfield three of Stilian Petrov, Ian Taylor and Gareth Barry. And then up front we have Paul Merson playing in behind Dwight Yorke and Christian Benteke. Finally, my team will be managed by the boss, John Gregory. Remember, if you think my team is the better team, which obviously it is, then remember to vote on the links provided so that I can see Matt off in this challenge.
That's all for the Villa View this week. Make sure you're voting on our poll on Twitter, that the link is below, and also on the link above for YouTube poll. Make sure you're telling us which team is best for the Premier League 11. Remember to drop us a like below, comment and subscribe, and follow us on Twitter at @TheVillaView_.
Is it going to be a humdinger?
It's a curveball, to say the least. Yeah.
God, I can't even think who it's going to be. The only thing I know is it's not going to be Gadley. The only thing I know is it's not going to be Gadley.
20 minutes later.
You ready for my final one?
Well, I've heard it could be either the greatest shout ever or a horrific call. So yeah, hit me.
Gabby Bonglehor.
That's everything you said on the video we did the other day.
Gabby Bonglehor. I hate him. I've got such a spite against that man.
I can't put him in because one, Matt will hammer me, and two, he has let us down for 2-3 years. I mean, I didn't put him in. I mean, I probably would have had him on my bench if it wasn't for you.
Lescott can't pull on an Aston Villa shirt again. Like after that season, woeful performances and an absolute sour distaste for Villa fans in the community. Those are the kind of players that we need to make an example of. Be like, right, look, you're not part of our club anymore. You don't respect our club or our fans. See you later.